Hi everyone, Lamar with Nighttime Canine. In the last video, we covered how dogs learn and think. You gained a foundational understanding of how to train your dog. In this video, we are going to learn why none of that matters if you don't have a healthy relationship with them. Today, we will lay the groundwork for you to structure your relationship with your dog so that behavioral issues are non-existent. There are 3 parts we'll cover: the owner-dog dynamic, absolute no's, and changes to make. You will learn what it looks like to exist with your dog properly, how to live in the same house with them, and how to go out into the world in a way they will actually respond to. As we work through this video, I want you to try to wrap your head around this statement. You can train obedience to the highest level, but if you don't have a healthy relationship with your dog, it will constantly fall apart. And on the other hand, you can have a well-trained dog if you have a healthy relationship with them, but you don't need to have any obedience training whatsoever. How does that possibly work? How do homeless people oftentimes have calm, well-behaved dogs downtown around chaos? What is that old guy wandering through the park doing with his dog off leash, no collars, not even looking at it, while it follows him around everywhere? Once you experience a healthy relationship with your dog, it will become crystal clear how all this works. Although beforehand, it can be understandably difficult for people to grasp because the relationship can come across as magical, like they must be a dog whisperer, because you can't actually see it. It's invisible. The relationship is not based on doing something specific once you're out. It's either already there or it's not. But it's not magic, and today we will show you why anyone can have a well-behaved dog. Now, people come to me having unknowingly approached dog ownership from the opposite side than they should have. They get their new dog and immediately do not want to tell it what to do. They do not create any structure. They don't want to take any level of authority over the dog. They treat it like a 6-month-old baby, only focused on fun tricks and constant baby talk, spoiling them with everything. Endless coddling to the point where the dog can't learn anything. This becomes highly confusing for them. Trust me, I get it. It looks cute. Dogs are incredibly cute. But do you know when my dog looks the absolute cutest? When he has diarrhea. The rare occasion in the past, first thing in the morning out of the crate. Not bad enough to where he's letting me know while he's in there, not an emergency. He's holding it, and then I realize once I let him out. His tail is wagging, he's super wiggly, he's running around a little more, he's coming up to me, sniffing around the door. Looks harmless the first time. Everything about him looks incredibly cute, but it's all a little extra compared to normal. In reality, he just has to do what I said he has to do. Now, it's very easy to get our dogs completely backwards. We can love them, but that doesn't mean we understand them. From this terrible foundation, people overly focus on obedience, as if that's the singular answer to everything. They completely neglect the relationship, which is actually the basis of everything. Now, as usual, none of this video is about dominance or submission or being some fake alpha pack leader. It's about the responsibility and the role you take on to parent a dog properly. To do this, you first need to understand the owner-dog dynamic for what it truly is. To help explain throughout this entire video, we are going to use something that we are all familiar with to some degree: the parent-child relationship or any mentor-mentee dynamic. Now, everyone would benefit from having someone worthy of being looked up to in their life, from being able to take a back seat and just learn. The world is moving quickly, and people, they feel understandably behind, and they often cope by unnaturally placing themselves ahead of where they're at in life or in their career. Fake it till you make it. Normal thing that humans do. But does this always serve us? Now, we may be equals as human beings, but I want you to look deeper and think about situations where you get around high value, high character people who truly have something to teach you. Think of a great parent, a coach, a teacher, anything like that. It actually doesn't benefit you to have this need to be seen as their equal. Granted, they are worthy, it benefits both people to look at this power dynamic realistically. Again, not about dominance or control. It's more like, hey, this person really has something to offer. They come from a good place and could change my life if I remove my ego and look up to them that way. To not look up to that person is to completely waste all they have to offer just so you can feel equal. If you want to think you're on the same level as your boss or your coach, then you will never put yourself in the mindset to grow, to eventually be the boss or the coach. The whole dynamic will be off. Now, I'm not the boss here. You are for your dog. You are that person they need to look up to. Dogs have no ego. They don't need to feel like you're equal. They don't even want to. Now, I want you to think, if you had a person in your life telling you what to do and treating you from a place of authority, might make you tense up like I don't know about that. So what would make you more at ease to be able to benefit from having someone guiding you in life that way? Well, first, let's talk about what wouldn't make you feel more comfortable about that situation. We'll call these red flags. Bribing. If the person was trying to bribe you, hey, do what I say, and you can come use my pool, or I'll buy you this, or fly you here. Kind of slimy, right? Probably not the person who truly has something good to offer you. Also, what if this person was still pushing and was like, hey, listen to me, let me change your life? And they immediately jump into love bombing you. Constant love and affection right off the bat, before you even know them or know what they might have to offer you. Pretty unstable, right? That wouldn't feel good. Let's take it further. What if they were a liar and were constantly telling you to do things without really meaning what they were saying? You could just blow off their request without consequences and life would just continue. They're not really about it. They're a pushover. A phony. Definitely not the person you would want to give your loyalty to. Last one. Over talking. They're a big yapper. Now, it's hard to follow someone who is constantly rambling on to justify themselves. It's compensating for something they lack. Think dating. Guys will literally talk their way out of having a shot with a girl. They'll yap away to try to explain why they're worthy instead of being confident enough to let their presence speak for what they actually have to offer. You ladies, you don't even have to think about it. You can instinctually smell the weakness, and it's a big no for that guy. Now, as I'm sure you're putting together, these red flags are exactly how people approach dogs. To a T. It doesn't work with them just like it doesn't work with people. Think of kids. They are incredibly intuitive and they can kind of sense what's going on before they can really understand what's actually happening. So sadly, kids unknowingly become victims of this bribery and these red flags. Now you probably know some of those rich kids whose parents spoil them to make up for their lack of parenting. These kids are still jealous of their less wealthy friends who have close-knit families because of the genuine connection they sense. But that little kid doesn't stand a chance against all those things and money that they're given by their rich parents. It's the same thing with child stars who don't stand a chance against the bribery and the lie that is fame, even with these clearly shady characters and false promises all along the way. Now, we all know how these situations turn out. These kids will understandably take the bribes and essentially fall for it without realizing the consequences until down the line. Now, your dog will take all the bribes, all of them and more, but they will never fall for it, ever, because dogs can sense your intentions. Now, they can't read your thoughts, but what they absolutely can read is your energy, and if those intentions are clear to you. In other words, do you have a plan and know what you're doing for your dog in any scenario? If you do, then they will feel that confidence, that you know what's happening, and they'll feel as if it makes sense to follow your lead. So you need to have this dog training education, just on a pet owner level, to avoid falling into these red flags. You want to create enough clear and genuine competency for them to want to follow you. Now, all this, I know it sounds great, but how does it work? What exactly is the dog sensing that makes them want to be loyal to you? The same thing any child or person would need to feel from a parent or mentor to be comfortable in allowing them to take authority over their life. Trust, and respect. Not love. Now, healthy love added later on top of these things is pretty great. But you can love that parent that isn't really there for you, that crazy friend who is fun sometimes, or an eccentric boss who makes work a little more tolerable. But if you do not trust and respect them, then it will not feel great gifting them your loyalty to direct your life. Now, trust is earned. By initial energy, honesty, and showing enough to deserve a chance. The dog doesn't necessarily know what you're truly about yet, but you appear to mean what you say. You ask them to do things, and you're consistent in holding them to it. You're honest. When you don't follow through, you are teaching them to ignore you. They see you as a liar and a pushover, unworthy of trust. Remember, you want that authority's voice to hold actual weight, so listening makes sense. Dogs are nonverbal. Avoid becoming white noise in the background to them, and be serious when you speak. The dog will then feel solid energy around you. They will feel stability and safety, like you may have an understanding of their needs. Now the dogs, they compute that as, hey, seems worth it to see what this guy's about. Think of it as a calculated leap of faith. It's the same thing you do if you meet a potential significant other or a potential new business partner. You have no idea how those situations are going to turn out down the line. So you're going to analyze them at first to see if they're worthy of your trust. Do they seem to just BS? Or will that person hopefully be looking out for you when situations get tough? Now from there, the dog will decide if they want to give you their respect. Now don't think of respect as earned. Respect is given based on direct actions and achievements. It isn't a leap of faith, but rather a deep admiration that can only come from seeing actions and real-world results. That's why we can respect people we don't even know, nonetheless love or trust, because we respect their book, their movie. We value their information they're giving us. We don't know anything about their personal life because respect is only based on their achievements and track record of producing results. Are you someone teaching your dog real skills to navigate the world in their busy mind? Do you provide structure and boundaries? Do you teach them consequences that will undoubtedly happen out in the world? Now, ignoring these things will cause friction in the relationship. They won't respect you. There's no way to pet your way out of this or cuddle your way out of this. It's not an emotional decision for them at all. It's simple doggy logic. You aren't doing your job as a parent or a coach. Their genetics, they speak to being raised by their mama dog, who isn't messing around, nurturing, but also giving firm and clear boundaries. Picking puppies up in her mouth, placing them over here, throwing them over there. Doing what needs to be done. Then we get them and treat them like a glass baby. I don't know why anyone would get a dog and not want to teach them consequences, both good and bad. This is what sets your dog up for success in our unstable human world that we brought them into. They didn't ask for that. Now you bridge that confusing gap for them, and doing so results in healthy respect for you. Once you earn a dog's trust, and then you demonstrate that you are someone to respect, their unwavering loyalty will follow suit. This is the product of trust and respect. That's the sequence. That's why if anyone is lucky enough to get around a high-level, trustworthy, genuine leader who wants to teach you, you would be pretty silly not to let them give you a little game. Now dogs, they understand this much more clearly than humans. You don't have to be perfect. Luckily, being this leader for your dog is a lot easier than being that for a human. I'm always telling people, get a dog before you have a kid. You may not be in the place to raise a child or even be there for a spouse, but you are all capable right now of being that person for a dog within any lifestyle, any schedule, any personality. We've done it with far too many different types of people. Now, before we get into specific changes, one issue we see constantly holding people back from being able to start the process of stepping up for their dog is a lack of forward thinking. Don't keep your dog stuck in the past. Now, what I mean by this is that since most people are adopting dogs and there's backyard bred dogs with issues everywhere, this is predominantly my clients, It causes owners to get completely stuck on their dog's past. People love to go, he was abused, rescued from an evil puppy farm, an evil shelter. I saved her from being put down as her last hour on her deathbed. You need to forget that for your dog's own good. This is a new life for the dog. They're ready to move on. They're in the present. But people project into the past, without meaning to, what happened with the dogs in their mind. And they don't allow the dogs to grow past it. It's a huge barrier that we see holding back people from even being able to begin sometimes. They immediately assume everything with their dog, every little issue, is because of past abuse. Now, there are extreme situations, but for the common owner, it's just an excuse to keep you from getting started. Dogs are more forward-thinking than any human could possibly be. They aren't operating in fear or because of past trauma. They're simply running the same program because their owner hasn't made the necessary changes to move their life forward. So what changes do we have to make? How do we structure life for your dog so they see you as worthy of trust, respect, and loyalty? Well, again, it all starts with not doing the wrong things. Owners are constantly betraying their dog's trust without even realizing it. Now, trust is damaged by situations the dog deems as unsafe, not the owner. The biggest example is taking your dog to the dog park. This is an absolute no, and one of the few things that every dog trainer agrees upon. Dog parks are a cesspool of bad behavior, complete lack of social skills, constant bullying and fighting, and completely unaware and disconnected owners. Once you can see the body language more clearly, most dogs don't even want to be there. That excitement you see is actually a dog on edge, alert, preparing for something to go down. It inevitably will. The dogs that do want to be there, they see the dog park as a drug. They know their owner isn't doing anything else with them. Even if they aren't the dog park bully, they can't wait to be able to go somewhere and let their energy out and be rude and get up in dogs' faces with no manners and no consequences. It's their outlet. It's their drug, and they're being forced into it. Now, of course, a dog will have fun going into full debauchery mode, but that isn't healthy, and eventually they will be the victim as well. Now, I've trained outside dog parks forever, and it's a big experiment that goes wrong like clockwork every time. When these negative events do occur, how do you think that changes how your dog looks at you? You put him in that situation. It isn't always a fight, but there is a constant lack of boundaries and disrespect occurring. This is dangerous in your dog's mind, and you brought them there. Owners either don't even realize it's happening or they're on their phones, just unaware and just ignore it. I don't know which one is worse for the dog, them just letting it do it or not realizing that's happening. Any trust is destroyed. Respect is not even considered. No dog parks. Now, the next biggest mistake is completely unnecessary, unproductive, unhealthy, on or off-leash greetings. All of them. With people and dogs. No more of these. Now, the first example of this is slightly out of our control, but the biggest opportunity to gain or lose your dog's trust. When your dog is bomb rushed by an off-leash dog. This does happen, unfortunately, and we cannot control other people, but we can control our response. You need to step in and advocate for your dog. Even if you think they're all tough or whatever, they need to see an owner do this. You step in and go, no, bad dog, back, back. You can use a pet corrector. Jingle your keys at them. Use your body, step in between the dogs. Oftentimes they'll never had that happen before. They'll get that physical communication very quickly. Every dog you run into will back down after you learn to stand your ground firmly. Those couple percent of actually aggressive dogs, they're not out and about. Their owners aren't taking them to these parks. Some people, they like to think they have these dogs. They don't. Every dog you see out there bomb rushing is a complete faker. They're just like a harmless, dumb, hyper kid running loose. That's why you don't have to be angry. You don't have to yell. You just have to be firm in your energy. Now that owner, they've likely given that dog little to no rules or structure. And that's why the dog will stand down at the slightest defense. And how your dog sees you will change forever. It shifts their brain like, whoa, like my human can handle things. They can handle the environment. I can chill a little bit. Their mental state gets calmer and they become more in tune with you because you earned their respect through your direct actions out in the world. Now, before you start thinking, this is only some big scary thing, only some big scary man can do. No, not true. I love when this happens during a session so a client can see an example from me beforehand so they can wrap their head around it. We train moms to do this, shy people. Your physicality doesn't matter with dogs. How loud you are doesn't matter with dogs. It's about your energy and if you really mean it. Now think of what we've seen mothers do for their children. Don't mess with the mom. Don't do it. They're not going to mess around with their babies. You need to bring this same strong mom, dad energy. You brought this dog into your home and you are responsible for them. Now, I want you to remember back to childhood when we thought the cool parents were really cool for letting us do anything. And then we grow up and realize they sucked and it did no favors for the kids. On the other hand, there was that parent or coach who was preparing you for what you didn't understand yet. They were tougher on you. They weren't messing around or wasting your time. You get older, learn to appreciate it, and realize they weren't actually being mean, but cared deeply about you. If anything went wrong, the slightest thing, you knew that person had your back. This firm energy is incredibly important for a dog handler to embody in your own way. Once you're confident in the dog training education you have, this will naturally happen. Now, yeah, it is about how your dog looks at you, but also how do you look at your dog? You must understand that for their own good, it's your food you're sharing with them. Your house that you're opening up to them. Your walk you're taking them on. When you accept that responsibility, then you will naturally stick up for them in any situation. And in turn, your dog will see you as a benevolent leader. You and your dog are a partnership, but you are the leader of that duo and you must be taken seriously. Not about dominance, but rather the reality of the responsibility of dog ownership. Now, when you mess this part up, this leadership part up, which is part of the process, it will happen. Come back here, watch this video again, regroup, see what you should have done differently, and do better next time. That's all it takes. Now, getting back to the absolute no's. We have those rogue off-leash dogs, but we also have on-leash greetings that we see owners constantly subjecting their dogs to. These are just as problematic in losing your dog's trust and respect. This is what you see on every trail, on every path. Owners either allow their dogs to pull them everywhere and say hi to every dog or person passing, or they allow people to come up and say, hey, can my dog say hi? Or can I pet your dog? Absolutely not. Only two things will happen in this situation. A negative event. The dog's beef. Your dog snaps or gets snapped at. And a fight happens. Or a person with bad energy touches them in the wrong place. That's common as well. These events will create a fear reactive dog who not only doesn't, but can't trust their owner. It was a completely avoidable situation. There wasn't even an off-leash dog on the loose, but the owner allowed it to happen, and the dog knows it. Trust destroyed, respect not even considered. Now, on the other hand, a positive event could occur. Positive in quotations. This happens when your dog thinks every other dog is their best friend. Every person is cooler than their owner. They get all the pets, all the treats from other people. They get to play on narrow, confined pathways where it's not appropriate. Why would they care about you? Why would they listen to you the rest of the time when they're so accustomed to commanding all this attention? And it's always allowed. It's the same as letting your young child live on Instagram, getting a ridiculous amount of attention from people they don't even know, undeserved attention. That's not good for them, just like this isn't good for the dogs. Now the dog is used to getting everything they want and will have no self-control. When you inevitably try to stop them from getting this attention, they will not be able to handle their excitement, because every time it's led to them getting to the dog, getting to the pets, getting to the treats. When you get frustrated with this and let out some of that stress on them, whether you're realizing it or not, it is completely unfair to the dog because of what was constantly communicated before that. They do not respect you because of your continuous actions out in the real world. They don't even think about the trust part. You're just something on the end of the leash getting dragged to their party. These events will create an over excitement based reactive dog. Now, oftentimes, once the dog gets to the trigger, they immediately relax and just want to play. So people take that as meaning that all the problematic behavior beforehand doesn't matter and isn't going to continue to cause more and more problems. It's actually Russian roulette you're playing. Ironically, the more you experience these positive events, the closer you are coming to a negative event. At some point, you will, without a doubt, come across a dog that isn't going to like your out of control, over-aroused, overexcited dog, or vice versa. So all of this is either a negative event or a fake positive event that leads to a negative event, both resulting in one of these two types of reactivity. Now, these are the main issues that are happening with dogs in the world today. This sequence of events is happening with so many people over and over again. It's a real problem. Now, this leads to people thinking their dog has serious anxiety or uncontrollable problems. No, almost never. The dog was just allowed to do the wrong thing so many times that it appears to be a serious behavioral issue. It's not. It's an owner management issue, an owner communication issue, in allowing the dog to rehearse problematic behaviors over and over. It's reversible. No more on or off leash greetings. So what do we want then? Neutrality. A dog that can walk by people and animals in a good headspace and not care. It's just like a well-behaved little kid whose parents can take them out places without tantrums and crazy hyper episodes happening. The kid can just sit and walk and look, and everything is okay. They wait for the play. They wait for the fun. And that time in between, they can actually handle. Now, neutrality is what creates this freedom and the stability for a dog. You cannot constantly be breaking their trust and throwing them into situations or allowing them to throw themselves into them and expect results to happen. You must say, no, we're training. Or no, my dog doesn't say hi. Or my dog doesn't say hi on leash. Or he's not friendly. Even if he is, that's a good one. This keeps them safe and stable. Now that neutral dog, they can go anywhere with you and experience the world. You do not want them to have a strong positive or negative association with people or dogs. You got a dog for you. Not everyone else. Now, these strange people and strange dogs, they will be everywhere. So if your dog has one of these associations, then everywhere you go, they will always be in a state of arousal, either from fear or overexcitement. They must see these people and dogs as neutral to find that mental stability. Now, if a trained dog does engage in any interaction, they know how to do so properly because of that neutrality and the mental stability that comes with it. They know how to play back and forth. They can read other dogs' cues and body language. They can develop real social skills. Now, the ones that are overly engaging and being forced or allowed to do so by their owners, they don't actually know how to interact in a healthy manner. Now, this has become a massive cultural issue in America specifically. And people, they get incredibly wrapped up in it with their dogs and cannot control their reactions enough to respond properly. But we completely get it with kids. Are you going to let every weird stranger or unruly kid on the loose run up to your child? Absolutely not. That's weird. You're not just going to hand children over to random people and subject them to every passerby. You won't ignore their stress signals or force them into interactions. You want to keep them safe. You don't want them to get emotionally distraught or abused in any way. But we allow that with dogs. It's incredibly weird. The dogs are having terrible interactions and becoming incredibly fearful or insanely overexcited. And owners just go, oh, it's okay, buddy, calm down, and think it's done with right after, as if there are no consequences. When the dog is constantly wanting to be saved to the point they give up trying and take matters into their own hands. The dog that is fearful or way too overexcited is really just needing someone to parent them. Instead, we allow them to get abused, or we allow them to be the bully. We let strangers touch them and make them uncomfortable, or we allow our dogs to make others uncomfortable and mess up other people's training. Even when it's not a huge issue, why should people allow strangers to come touch their dog and give them treats and interact like they know each other? It's incredibly odd. It makes no sense. You didn't get a dog to have all their time spent bonding in this weird, unhealthy manner with other people and other dogs you don't even know, who you won't even see again. You got a dog to bond with you, to go to restaurants and on cool trips and hikes, without it all being a stressful mess. Yet people do the complete opposite of what would make that actually happen. Now, sometimes I have clients, they tell me, well, my dog doesn't want to play with me. He isn't as interested in me. It's just not what he wants. Completely false. He craves that more than anything, but it isn't being provided properly. The dog isn't going to appear like he wants what isn't there yet. You just need to adjust your approach. Once you work on the relationship properly, it changes every time. The dog gets what he wants, and you do also. The tension in the relationship dissolves. Now, a lot of the times, people take this as if I'm saying you must hide away your dog and they are never to interact with anyone. Not true. But you must understand the lack of productivity in it and how it will keep you from developing a well-trained neutral dog. Wait until you have that before all the interactions. Many clients, they go through our program and then after they realize how completely unnecessary it is. Now sometimes, yeah, there's the best friend who is serious about their training too, or there's an easy family dog at home that you can really structure those interactions with. But once most people experience life with a neutral dog, they never want to go back. Complete the training and then make those decisions about socialization. Moving on. So we have no dog parks, no more on or off leash greetings, no doggy daycare. This is another drug to a dog. Now, people love to say their dog comes back exhausted, but it's in an unhealthy manner. This is the same exhaustion we feel from scrolling TikTok for hours or watching Netflix and playing video games all day. It's doggy social media for them. And all that stimulation is going to make it impossible to get through to them when you need calm behavior. They're just used to the free roam and doing whatever they want at daycare. And it isn't better because it's inside or you have to pay for them to be watched. It's a completely unmanageable environment only used to make the owner's life easier. Now, removing your dog from daycare will only help them find more mental stability with you, which is why you got a dog, not to outsource all their time spent with other people. Now, there are ways to manage your dog that we will discuss that can be done with any schedule. Next one. No passive aggressive dog owners. What does this mean? You need to figure out what you personally do not want your dog doing. You're a human being with emotions. You're going to have to address the things in the moment that bother you with your dog. And we do this to avoid creating resentment and stress associations. Now, I don't care if you used to be a monk or a saint, this is so possible with humans. And if you don't do this, then that slight resentment and stress will build and it will harm your relationship. The things that bother each owner are different since each dog and situation is different as well. Some people hate when the dog jumps on people. Others don't want them barking demands. Some don't want to be licked or they hate begging at the table. You have to be honest with yourself and communicate those boundaries instead of acting unbothered. Now think of this through the parent-child dynamic. You have certain kids who, because of the parenting they got, would never throw a ridiculous tantrum in public. It's not even an option in their mind. The parents clearly communicated to them how to behave in public. The kid knows nothing good comes from throwing a tantrum. The parent built a strong relationship with them. It's already been addressed. Then you have the other parent who couldn't handle the whining. They were so annoyed with it, they just gave in, being completely passive, letting the kid do things they hate while trying to ignore it. At some point, in some form, that parent is going to snap at that kid. There's no other place for that energy to go if you're the person choosing to shove those feelings down. That is not fair to the dog. You need to handle whatever those situations are each time they come up. Now, we will talk about how to do this in the communication videos and beyond. But for now, just understand that concept. All right, the last absolute no is the most important. No unearned freedom or resources. Resources are incredibly valuable to a dog on a deep biological level. And it's the same for humans, but we choose to take everything for granted. We must keep a dog grateful for what they get for their own good. Do not do them the disservice of turning them into modern humans who forget to see how amazing it is that we have things like water and heat and technology. What are these resources for your dog? Toys. Toys are only for interactive play between dog and owner. We do not give a toy to a dog and go in the other room. We do not leave toys out because your dog will never care about playing with you. Even worse, they will lose all gratitude for these valuable resources because they're all over the floor. They're filling up their toy box. You won't be able to teach them anything with those toys. Your positive reinforcement will not be as effective. Think about how unfair that is to their training. You expect all this good behavior, yet you're wasting the holy grail that is toys. Pick them up, put them away. Next resource. Food. Absolutely no free grazing where the food is just left out, but also no dropped food bowls for your dog to just devour. We use kibble during training or we hand feed meals. You can buy latex gloves for it. It works great. And there's conditioning and specific training we use these food opportunities for while also labeling them as a valuable resource in the dog's mind. They must see you as in control of these resources. It's completely game-changing in their mind. Now, we aren't going to get deep into this here, but neglecting to control resources like toys and food is an easy way to create resource guarding. The way a dog is wired, they will see these things as unclaimed. And at some point, it shouldn't be a surprise that they say, hey, I'm claiming that as mine, and I'm going to defend it. Don't even make this an option in their mind. The food comes from your hand. Also, no water bowls left out. We feed water with meals or at certain times, and they will learn that, hey, I should drink that now because it's valuable and I won't have access to it until later. Mom and dad are in control of everything important and I can relax knowing I'm taken care of. Now this food one, this can be tough for people from an emotional standpoint if their dog is not food motivated. This is what we've had work for us. If your dog is not taking the food when you are designating it, either at a set time hand feeding or out while training, you need to get comfortable only giving them praise and affection and having them not eat. Let them make their decision and try again the next day. Even the most stubborn dogs will eat after a few days. You don't give them 10 opportunities to eat. You don't try to get them fancier and fancier food. This doesn't help. Think of it as if you're allowing them to be ungrateful or bossy, because that's exactly what's happening. It cultivates a poor mental state that bleeds into other areas. If they don't take the food, then they don't eat. Simple as that. Eventually, they will. Dogs are resilient, but their food drive will kick in, and they will see the value of following your lead on when and what to eat. It will completely change their mentality, all for the better. You'll have a whole new tool in your training. Think about how valuable that will be. Now, last resource. Free roam. Freedom at home and beyond is earned through results. Setting these boundaries and structure is everything when beginning training. No untrained dogs on the couch or bed. The dog is in the house more than anywhere. You have to use this area as the number one place to teach them respect and boundaries. This is critical for their development. Now, you're not going to let a young child walk on the kitchen counters or hang out in the garage alone or eat in their bed at night. It would hurt their development, and they wouldn't learn boundaries and respect for your space. This lack of respect then translates out into the world, everywhere you go. So with dogs, you take the toys away, you control their food, and you allow them to earn freedom. With a child or a dog, do you think they're just going to magically understand respect and boundaries when they weren't taught that value in their own home? Doesn't work that way. How you do anything is how you do everything, especially with a dog. I like to use the example of how people choose to drive. If you're speeding to your destination like a maniac, music turned all the way up, weaving in and out of traffic, speeding like crazy, when you get there, you have no chance of being calm. Your nervous system will be all jacked up and you'll be very stimulated. You can't have the calm when you weren't being it. Now, this is fine if you're going to the gym or a party. Your dog is not going to those places, ever. He's going out to train, to learn. Everything with a dog is a precedent for what's to come. If your dog is not calm and behaved in the crate, they will not be calm and behaved in your house. If your dog is not calm and behaved in the house, they will not be calm and behaved when you go outside. Now, it takes some time to adapt into this calm and generalize it to every area. Nothing is wrong if your dog is struggling to wind down when you begin the training. It's completely normal. Now, we're going to go over specific changes to make, but it all starts with trusting the process. Once your dog is perfect and well behaved at home, then it could be completely fine for them to have all these freedoms and more. But that's not where we're at, and we're probably not even close. Your dog does not know how to handle the freedom yet. Now, when you give a dog freedom that they have not earned and do not deserve, something very not unique happens. And I want you to think of this well-known example. What happens with people who win the lottery? Now, I think people in a good place, they'll use the winnings positively. But let's focus on people who are struggling. And then out of nowhere, they get dumped millions of dollars. There's a high probability they become depressed, lose the money, and eventually go broke. Their relationships deteriorate, as does their overall health and well-being. Their lifespan literally shortens. As weird as it may seem, winning the lottery is one of the most terrible things that can happen to certain people. It's just not how we're wired. You cannot be given things you haven't earned because you haven't made the deep-rooted mental connections that create competence and confidence. These come with an understanding that you earned something, knowing that you worked for it, that you shouldn't feel shame or a lack of self-worth about what you got. If you just went to the gas station or the casino, you didn't earn it. Now, it's the same thing with a dog, but actually much worse. A human, they will undeservingly get everything and still try to fake stability and keep themselves seemingly propped up as long as possible before an inevitable downward spiral. But a dog doesn't worry about pride or the future. They are taking everything and diving off the deep end 100 miles per hour. Do you see what you're doing to your dog with all that unearned freedom, all those toys, kisses and affection, play and attention from every dog, every person. Do not do this to your dog. You don't want them to win the lottery. No unearned freedom or resources. Now, this is actually where proper socialization starts with the dog, with no unhealthy interactions. We want to avoid the rehearsal of undesirable behaviors. Now, this is where proper management is everything. Again, we understand this with kids. You aren't going to let your 5-year-old choose their bedtime or play video games whenever they want. But for some crazy reason, we think it's okay with dogs, as if inappropriate behavior is somehow normal socialization for them. Up in everyone's face, roughhousing, doing what they want when they want. Now, the dog will do it because it's self-reinforcing behaviors and dogs are pleasure seekers, but it's terrible socialization. Building social skills for a dog is completely different than with people. For example, we are verbal creatures. We talk a lot. Dogs are not. We are also huggers. All primate species are. We hug to express love and comfort. Now, when you see a dog that isn't playing with another one, when you see them wrap that arm around the back of another dog, it's about to go down. This is a threat. Their process of socialization is different than ours. They gain these skills by first learning to exist in space. Without the unhealthy, unproductive interactions. Now, your dog needs to learn to exist around their owner and people and dogs without doing anything. This will be difficult at first and starts around you with home training. In our program, if your dog is untrained and you have had them for less than a year or longer in most cases, we use the crate and the place at all times when home. Additionally, we put a crate in your vehicle if possible. We teach you to build a strong, positive connection with these areas to provide clear structure for your dog. They don't need to be doing anything else in between walks or training. Now, I always hear people projecting their feelings onto their dog, thinking they need this constant stimulation as if it's a good thing. This only means you never took the time to teach them to simply exist with you in your space. You are keeping your dog from learning to settle their mind. Think of it like meditation for us. If you've ever tried it, then you know it's difficult. It doesn't feel good at first. But the more you stick with it, the more you see the benefits. Now, this is much easier for dogs. That's essentially what they're doing when they're just laying there and staring. They're like little monks and yogis. It's really cool. They need to learn how to meditate, but they can't if you're screwing up every one of their sessions. If they're around you and always needing interaction or stimulation, it's as if they can't exist around you without constantly scrolling. They're like that significant other or friend who is always on their phone around you. Socialization for a dog comes in simply sharing space. They want you to earn the right to control where you put their body, to control when they can shut their mind off and just be. That is a stable and happy dog. It's that simple. Crate when you are gone, place when you are home, crate in the car. Now, the crate specifically will help develop self-confidence and independence. the same traits good parents strive to instill in their kids. Then when you do come home, you are of much more value to them and from a healthier place. This helps with separation anxiety as well. Now we will teach you how to come home and how to prepare and release them from these areas for walks and training sessions. This will completely maximize the calm within the dog and the productivity of the work. There is a process to handling the responsibility of freedom. The same way if you were preparing a child for their first sleepover or their first time being home alone. You don't just go let them do these things without sufficient preparation, or it will not go well. They must be taught to handle that responsibility. Now, to the people who say, I want my dog to have freedom and be able to do what he wants and not feel completely under my control like a robot. We want that for our dogs more than those people. They're just talking. We are actually doing the work needed to be able to eventually give them that amazing gift of freedom. Now, once your dog can handle more freedom, the next step is tethering. A thin slip lead around their neck or a thin leash attached to their collar that they can drag around at home. Dogs spend 80% of their time at home, so why wouldn't we put a leash on them there when we always do the other 20% outside? This is how we test their ability to handle freedom. You have a backup management plan in the leash should they still be unable to handle it. Now, a telltale sign that you are trying to give them freedom too soon is if they are immediately excited and pacing around as soon as they get out of the crate or off the place. They are still unable to settle their mind with the freedom. If that happens, then you send them right back. It's not a bad thing. That's the process. Then you continue to wait and try again a different day. You want them to appear bored once they get the freedom. That's what neutrality looks like. Maybe they go lay in the middle of the living room while you're watching TV. Mosey on over to their place bed. Maybe they get up and slowly roam around, not overly interested in anything. You go to your desk and they come lay down in that area. Maybe once in a while they come up to you, put their snout on your leg, but they don't need a toy or constant attention. This is what successful implementation of the crate and the place looks like. Now, it can take time for some dogs, and that's okay. Eventually, even the most formally reactive or unconfident dogs will find peace in their crate and on their place. They will beeline for it as soon as you get home or right when they realize you're busy with something. Now, my dog is tough to wake up at any time of the day to go out for walks. He perks up quick, and if he's already up, he's ready to go. But if he's asleep, tough to get up initially, except at the end of the day when he goes into his bedroom kennel. I'll say, let's go to bed. He'll jump up right out of a dead sleep on his place bed like he never does, and he skips to his kennel, all wiggly, every night. I love it. We need to create these safe spaces for untrained dogs as a vessel for stability. The dog's ability to learn where to wind down, where their owner places them, directly translates in their ability to control themselves and remain calm when you are out training. Think of how much more successful a child is when they have a stable home. Involve parents, their own safe space in their room, maybe a backyard for their activities. This kid is pretty lucky. That stability is going to transfer over to school, into extracurricular activities, into their social life. This is what home training does for a dog in the form of a crate, place, and tethering. We do this because we want to avoid the rehearsal of bad behavior. All right, finishing up. Your dog is not a little baby. This is not what the dog craves. Treating them as such satisfies human emotions and not the dog's biological needs. Now, fulfilling the dog's biological needs translates directly into their emotional well-being. These are primal beings. There's no world that exists where they need this Western coddling and baby-like idealization. It's a dog. Look at them as such and really analyze your behavior from this perspective to see if you're doing what is best for them or best for you. I get how tough it can be, and social media does us no favors. Fun is fun and dogs are cute. We all have good intentions, but dig deep and help them grow into the dog they need to be. If you do this, there will be time down the line for the baby voices and the bed privileges and the cuddles without having a huge negative impact like it does when it's all the dog knows. Now, I do all these things with my dog at home. I'm such a softie with him, but at the appropriate times and not until we had put in the necessary work. Now, a trained dog has the ability to be mindless for much of the day, but this can't be the only state they are expected to be in. You need to find little windows throughout the day to work their minds, quick training bursts like we implement in our program. You will find a walk, train, play schedule that works for you. My dog has 2 major outings a day. They both have obedience, play, and sniffs all combined into one. Now, we teach you a plan in a later video on what the structure of these days and these outings will look like for you during training and beyond. And when they have these windows to think and move inside of their day, then they are happy to just nap and exist with you the rest of the time because their needs are being met. They won't need an insane amount of exercise depending on the breed. Now, I see many people, they get stuck over-exercising their dog physically and under-stimulating them mentally. Because you weren't satisfying them mentally, they get addicted to these long fet sessions or long walks that aren't sustainable. Then, when they inevitably have slow days and downtime when you get busy, they are unable to handle it because you haven't learned to satisfy them mentally. There is a balance in meeting mental versus physical needs, and you find that in our program and fit it to you and your dog. There are structured walks, structured play, obedience work, enrichment, scent games. Once you get the hang of it, I promise you, dogs are incredibly easy to keep happy. Now that covers it for this video. As you can see, there are a lot of moving pieces in the relationship. This is all meant as a framework to assist you in finding that relationship. It won't just happen because you do X, Y, and Z. You need to bring all of the moving pieces together, and that takes time. Move slowly and don't try to attack everything at once. Through our system, we have seen people rise up from the most absent relationships with their dogs. People who thought they weren't dog people or who never believed they had the leadership for it. You all can find a way to live in a healthy manner with your dog. Once that relationship starts to grow, you will see your training results go to the next level. Now that you understand how dogs learn and think, as well as how to structure a healthy relationship with your dog, it's time to bring it all together by learning how to speak to them. Head over to the next video where we teach you how to create a full communication system with your dog.